All right, so Donald, I feel like I shouldn't have to do this interview, or I could do the interview for you because we do know each other fairly well and have traveled a lot together, going to different places. But I do want to start off with you were born and raised here in Yadkin County?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Now tell me about your childhood growing up.
Well, it couldn't be much better, I don't guess. My grandparents on my father's side, the Johnson, were very religious people, so they made sure that I was in church too. And I think that was one thing that kind of kept me on the straight and narrow for years and years until my late teenage, and I kind of broke out of the harness on that. But if it hadn't been for my training as a youth, I would never come back. But I always knew what I was doing, just a little bit on the left side, and so my wisdom from the youth got me straight again.
Now, you do have a pretty incredible testimony. I remember the first time that you ever stood before a congregation or Sunday school class and told the story about your drug problem as a kid.
Yeah, my drug problem was my daddy caused it, because every time the church opened the doors, I was drug in there.
Well, we teed that one up right, didn't we? I was hoping you'd remember that reference, because I can just imagine the look on your face.
Yeah. That's one reference I'll never forget.
All right, so you mentioned in your later teen years you did kind of drift away from that.
Yes, I did.
How so?
Well,
not to get too sensational, graphic, or whatever.
When
but
I was forced to go to church at night, and every time the door opened, when my buddies was out just having a great time, and I thought, man, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
And that when I got where I could get loose, when I was 17, I left home working for Rex White. So I got my training right off the bat around these race drivers.
So I did want to get into that as well. You did wind up working for Rex White, and for our listeners and viewers, Rex White was a champion race car driver. He hadn't won the championship yet when you were with him, but he did wind up in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So this was a pretty significant job for you. This wasn't just another local racer.
Well, I worked for him 1 year, and that 1 year we was number 2 in the short track division in the nation.
How far did you travel? Because to win championships, short track championships at that time, you had to travel a lot to collect those points.
Well, it was getting close to the end of the year, so we was behind some, but not a great deal, and we could run more races if we were in California. So we went to California, and was out there about a month, running Long Beach, Compton, Gardena, and San Jose.
So at the age of 17, 18, you and Rex take off to California. Now, what was that like?
Oh, it was wonderful in a way, but we was in a 56 Chevrolet pickup, and you can imagine about how wide the cab was and that. So in order to get rest, you put your head against the guy driving, and your feet crossed against the door window on the passenger side. And that's how we catch a nap now and then. And if you really got tired, you just get in the floorboard. That was kind of tough, but other than that, it's wonderful.
You were sleeping in the floorboard of a what year truck?
56. And there wasn't no trailers and stuff back then, or people hauling them on trucks. We had to use a tow bar, so we pulled that thing to California and back with a tow bar.
Now, how much convincing did it take with your parents for them to let you go, or were you pretty much out on your own by this point?
Pretty much on my own.
Okay.
But when we left to go to California, my daddy stopped us at Brooks's Crossroad and made Rex promise he'd really take care of me.
Really? Brooks's Crossroads. That's awesome. I pass by there every day. So you went to California with Rex. You ran several races out there. And I don't want to get too far into the NASCAR thing, but we're both NASCAR people. You told a story not long ago where you rode with Curtis Turner.
Yes.
In a race car, or
no, it was a race car. Frank Jr. owned the car, and headed up there, and we were in Wisconsin. Elkhart, Wisconsin, and he sent the car up there. I don't know how Junior got it up there, but it was for a local driver in Winston-Salem was going to drive it in the road race. And Curtis was there. We just walked around and happened to stop there about where that car was. And Curtis asked Rex, said, "You want me to show you my shortcuts are on this track?" And Rex said, "Yeah, you can show me." And I was trying to get in, and he said, asked Curtis, said, "Do you mind if he goes?" Curtis said, "No, put him in there back with all the roll bars." And here we went, and Curtis, when he'd go to a curve, he wouldn't go to the curve. He'd take a shortcut through the grass or gravel,
yeah,
and just throw gravel everywhere, and that just scared me to death. And worse than that, he went in one curve, and it grabbed a little bit when it hit the pavement.
Yeah.
And there was a fire extinguisher hooked to the roll bars, and I trying to grab for something to hold on, and knocked that thing off, and it went off of stuff. So all three of us probably remembered that for a long time.
I can see you getting out of the car covered in that junk, pure white or whatever. That's awesome.
It was a mess.
So you only worked for Rex 1 year. Why is that?
Well, at the end of that year, Chevrolet went factory back, strictly factory back, and the factory team was in Atlanta, Georgia, and Rex told me, he said, "I don't know, if they'll take you," and I would have to talk to the big wheels down there, and said, "I'll call you if they just said get you, I'll call you and tell you to come in." So I waited around 4 or 5 weeks, and my leather was going together. So I had to have a work. And I heard about a friend of mine was in Flint, Michigan, working for a Chevrolet. And I called him, talked to him. He said, "Why don't you come up here, get you a job up here?" I said, "It pays good." So I started out I had a 48 Chevrolet, customized, registered sharp car, and blowed the engine on West Virginia Turnpike. So I had to thumb back to North Carolina, borrow a pickup and a tow bar, go back to West Virginia and brought it back down here. Well, they had a guarantee on the engine in that not long before that for a year. And the dealership, I told Max Weber, and I said, "Now, you guaranteed this for a year, and I'm going to leave it with you, and I'm not going to make any payments till you get a new engine in it." And I caught a ride with some used car dealers and another pickup truck going to Flint, Michigan. We was in there like sardines. And they dropped me off just about where my friend lived. And I walked down there and went in, and they said, "Well, you can spend the night here." So that's what I did. It was Kent Cranfield, and I spent the night with him. And after the next day, I found me a place to live. It's South Flint Hotel. You talking about a dive. It was a dump, but that's what I could afford because I left home with $75 and I had to get that car and take all that. So I had mayonnaise and bologna and bread, and I put it outside the window there in that hotel. so it wasn't spoiled because it was getting cool that time of year.
Yeah.
And started hunting me a job, and I don't know how Rex found my number, but he found how to get in touch with me, and he called me and said, "Okay, Don, they want you. Come on down here." And I didn't have enough to ride a bus out of the city limits, Flint, Michigan then. And I told him I can't come, I'm broke. And the next day I got a job at Flint Engine Plant. And worked there on the motor line a while, and then they thought I was kind of skilled more than that, and they put me in the repair department, in the engine repair department.
Yeah, scoot your chair up, just, yeah. And tilt the mic a little closer. There we go. Perfect. Now, how long were you in Michigan?
2 years.
Okay.
In 1957, they was hiring everybody from anywhere in the world that come up there. They wanting people to work. Well, Chevrolet, after 55, Chevrolet was just selling out of sight. And the 57's right in there, too, that year.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of people there, but they had so many people working. When they'd shut down for some reason, they'd lay everybody, well, not everybody, they'd lay a lot of them off. And, the last in, the first out. And I got laid off so many times. After 2 years, I decided I was going to Alabama to the space plant down there. And so I went down there, and I couldn't get past the gate.
So you were going to go where, to Alabama?
At Arsenal down there.
Redstone
Arsenal.
Would you believe that's where I was born?
Is that right?
Yes, I was born on Redstone Arsenal.
Wow.
And you wanted to go to work in the space program?
Yeah, I thought I could do something, being mechanically minded.
Yeah.
I'd sweep floors if I could get in there and then work from there up.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. I couldn't get through the gate. I didn't have the right credentials.
So, where did you go from there? Didn't you live in Alabama at one point?
No, I got a job with a company out of North Lake, Illinois, installing dial telephone equipment. They was trying to do away with the women working in the offices. It took so many of them. They get rid of them, and all these switches, would take care of that. So I was doing that, and it was a new thing, and I'd travel all over then.
So when did Miss Francis come into the picture?
Okay, I'd worked several states, and at this time, I hadn't seen her in a good while. So I was in Indiana then, and I'd say, I need to go up there and spend some time with her. So I worked and gave me a few days after working overtime and all that, and Saturday and Sunday. So I drove up there, and she didn't know I was coming.
Drove up where?
Flint, Michigan. She
Okay.
was living in Flint then.
Is that where she's from?
No, she's from Alabama, but her father.
That's the Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her father was a skilled trade, and he worked as a special kind of welder up there, in the car department. So, car factory. And her mother worked for AC, that's part of General Motors. And she went to finish high school up there and graduated from high school up there.
And you met originally when you were living in...
Oh, I was dating her then.
Okay.
When I was living up there.
Okay.
Yeah, and after that, we got serious, back and forth, and I didn't like to live in Michigan. I told all my friends, I said, Michigan's good for one thing, and they said, "What's that?" I said, the whole rest of the world together. But she didn't like it either, and she called me. I was working in Ohio then, traveling around. She said, "I don't like you doing all this traveling around, being gone so much." And I said, I'd like to move to North Carolina. Why don't you find out if you can get a job down there? I said, we'll move down there. So I did, and got a job at R.J. Rollins Tobacco Company. This job, you'll laugh at this, my job then, I was clearing $272 a week. And my first paycheck at R.J. Reynolds was $42. That's wanting to go on bad, ain't it?
That's wanting to stay with Miss Francis awful. So you took a big pay cut just to be with Miss Francis. Now that's the most romantic thing I believe I've ever heard.
Of course, I had all my friends here and church here, the Yakima First Baptist. I'd been in that church since they left the old church. It used to be down where that insurance place is.
Yeah.
And we followed him over there. My daddy, they always wanted him in their church because he was a bass singer, a good bass singer, and a lot of churches try to get him to change churches, you know.
All right. So when did y'all get married?
In 1959.
1959. Wow. You talked earlier about kind of drifting away from church and your upbringing a little bit. Was there a specific moment when you felt the need to come back to that faith or come back to church? Or was that more of a gradual thing?
No, I knew it the whole time. I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I need to keep, we had a baby, and at that time, we need to get her used to being in church.
Okay, all right. And the baby was Miss Donna?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the pride of my life, I guess.
So you moved back to Yakinville when?
It was the first part of 59.
First part of 59.
Yeah, wintertime.
Where did you and Francis get married?
In Indiana.
In Indiana. Okay. All right.
Rushville, Indiana.
Okay. So you live you're back in North Carolina. You're raising a family. You're working a job. And then tell me about Maplewood. You don't need to get into how it all started and everything, but what was it like to be a part of a new church being built?
Well, it made a new person out of me because of the people that were there. And we was meeting in an association building then, and everybody had something to do, and everybody did it gracefully. And if you never sang before, now you sing. And when you wanted to teach Sunday school, if you hadn't done it before, now's the time. And it just worked out. And it was just like a huge family. Seemed like everybody loved each other. And there was a whole lot of hugging going on, shaking hands, and we had had times where we would have suppers and different things. We ate a lot.
No kidding.
You can't tell it, but look, you can. Well, after that, we decided we was going to look for property. And we looked all around, and somebody told me that saw some land down on Shacktown Road that, for sale, had a big for sale sign. We come down here, and there was a sign. And people asked the people next to where the sign was that their land? They said, yes, the Hodges people. And we said, well, are you willing to sell it? She said, yeah, we're for sale, And I said, well, let me go back and talk to my congregation. It was Jimmy and Graham and Philip Graham, me, and one or two others. Others don't come to me right now. But anyhow, I went back and told the others to go ahead and buy it, because we had enough money almost to buy this, like a little bit. We called the bank and see if we could get some money, and they said, well, you going to build a church on that after you buy it? And we said, yeah. And he said, well, if you'll get me 12 members in your church to put up the deeds to their home to back this loan, we'll do it.
Wow.
so we had 12 to do it. And evidently, after they went around and seen some of the houses, they come back and said, well, we only need 6. And then a little later, they said, we only need 3. But to buy the land, we went back and told them we wanted to buy it. And she said, well, I got a son out of country, in Panama. And said, I'll have to wait and see what he says. And we went back the next time. She said, well, I talked to my son in Panama. He says he didn't want me to sell it. So we was looking all over, hunting more property, and found one that looked pretty good. But we went back down there one time, a few weeks, month maybe, later, and asked her, would you and your boys and your husband pray with us about this? And she said, yes, we'll do that. So we got down on our knees and prayed about it. And then she called us in a few days, said, well, our son in Panama says that if I would give him another lot on the other side of what you want to buy to build him a home, said, we'll do it. So as many times then, we'd failed, but it's God's will to happen.
For 12 people to be willing to put up the deeds to their home, that's pretty powerful. I don't know that I knew that story.
Well, at that time, we just had faith.
It would be hard to put 30 years into perspective, but what do you love most about Maplewood now?
Kindness. People working and trying to do good in the community and out of the community. People are just so friendly. You come in this church on Sunday, you people see you hugging necks and shaking hands and laughing and talking and smiling. Everybody's friendly, smiling. I just can't help but like it.
This is a big question, but where do you see Maplewood in 5 to 10 years? What would you like to see happen? What's your vision for where we're headed?
My vision is to get more young people in here, especially those with small children. I think it takes that to grow a church, and you have to keep the same attitude here, the smiling and loving. Got to love everybody like a family. And the children grow up through the different departments in the youth. And the youth by then, they work wonders, just like when we restored the barn. Youth then was all over helping us. Me and Francis, they just come in and help us. They paint and saw and cut and trying to repair that barn so we could use it for the youth. What my dream was, if we get this barn in the right kind of shape, that the youth can come there with Christian people and teenagers, and after ball games, instead of riding the roads doing things that they shouldn't be doing, they can be there having all kind of fun with the same kind of Christian people, children, teenagers, and that might help them become outstanding people in our church.
You mentioned before we started recording your favorite Bible verse.
Yes, and it's going to surprise you. And it's so I don't get the words out of sequence. I've got it right here. Now you're going to respond to this. Mark 10, verse 14.
Okay, all right.
When Jesus was in a town or city or a community, people were together because they'd heard all the things about Jesus, and they just couldn't. And a lot of people brought their children. Well, there's some children there waiting in line to get in there with their parents, you know. And the disciples told them, no, you can't take children in there. So Jesus told them, says, let the little children come to me. For the kingdom of God belongs to those who are like children. And I'm going to tell everybody that's listening, I'm going to tell y'all the same thing I told my daughter when she got married. I'm not going to mess you married, not going to ask questions. You do as you please, but one thing you got to do is raise your children when you have them in church.
Amen. Amen. Is there anything else you'd like to get across?
Well, I can't think of anything. I think we've covered it pretty good, but I just can't imagine people that's looking for a church. I couldn't recommend a better place. And bring your youngins.
If you're looking for a church home,
or do you want to be part of a family?
If you're looking for a place to grow.
If you're looking for a place to worship.
If you have questions about your faith.
If you'd like to talk to somebody about being a Christian.
Come see us at Maplewood.